This is Brandon Wright, Wright Stuff Radio Show, and Toby Brockner, CMO Marketing. We're with the No Shave Club, right?
Every day.
Yes, that's right. So today, we just finished recording the radio show. Toby stayed after. We're going to talk about connecting to customers. How do you connect to customers initially? What can you do to get them through the door without giving all your profit away? Because that's a big deal for businesses. I mean, it's how do we attract in this noisy world? In the old days, there was phone books, TV, and radio. Now there's so many medias out there, you don't know where to start, how to get that customer in. So Toby, how do you connect to customers initially?
Well, with the proliferation of media, it's a double-edged sword. On the one hand, there's so many more media to choose from, and you have to ask yourself, where do I go? Because you can't do everything. As a small business owner, you have limited resources, money, whatever. But on the flip side of that, it's good because you can go after only media where you know your potential customers are hanging out.
You got to find them, though.
You do. You have to find them, and when we think about initially attracting new customers, that's why Groupon and Living Socials got really popular about giving half off of this. Whatever. And to me, all that really does is train a new customer to be cheap, and it is what it is, and it's not necessarily that that's a bad strategy, but you just have to be mindful of that's what you're doing. You're attracting people who are always looking for deals. So what I would rather do is give away something of value, and it can even be of high perceived value. It doesn't even have to be very inherently valuable, but you could look at things like ebooks or free reports or guides or checklists or whatever it may be, and distribute those out to your potential clients and customers are being found.
So what you're saying, I mean, you're talking about a long-term customer. I mean, someone that I'm going to get repeat business from. It's not a one-time transaction, or it's a low-dollar one-time transaction. That's a total different methodology.
Well, I call it the customer development process, and it's called a development process for a reason. You develop a customer over time. The biggest mistake a lot of small business owners make is they try to take somebody that we would call a suspect, who's never even heard of their business maybe, and jump them down to being a customer right out of the gate. And that's just kind of like being on a first date. You meet the person, you move in for a kiss. It's, slow down, Jack. You know, you're going too fast. We needed to get to know each other a little bit and build a relationship on some level and develop that relationship. And it's no different with a customer. You go in with something that they are attracted to you because of, whether it's your marketing or it's a referral they've heard from somebody else that you do a good job or whatever. It may be your pricing and initially, but it's something that's going to catch their attention that will kind of start the relationship off on a good foot.
Yeah, because I think it's funny because I look back at when I first started a carpet cleaning company. I mean, I was good, right? I thought, I'm going to run these coupons to get the customer in the door. Mm-hmm. Then they're going to hire me again. But they never did because I didn't run the coupon again. Yeah. They'd only use me if I ran the coupon.
Yeah, well, and you see this with furniture stores a lot. They're like, this weekend only, this big sale. And you're like, yeah, right, until next weekend there's going to be another sale. And that's a dangerous game that you play. Insurance companies are going through it right now with their pricing wars. I mean, every insurance company on the planet is talking about price. And they're digging their own grave.
Mm-hmm. Because the premiums go up really high the next year because they didn't make enough money on the first year.
In a lot of cases, what they're trying to do is buy customers for really cheap, and they're trying to get them in on a cheap intro offer, and their plan is to raise their premium later to recoup that money, but the customer just goes somewhere else. You see this with dentists all the time. So we have a dental client right now. They do the same thing, come in for a free cleaning with an exam, and they're trying to attract new moms. Well, the mom's driving down Eagle Road, and there's 1 million dentists on Eagle Road, and every one of them are offering a free teeth clean with an exam. So 6 months later, mom just jumps, goes to the next dentist that's offering a free thing. So we have to figure out, what do we do when we get them in to keep them there? And one of the things we're talking about with this dental client of ours is creating an app that's a toothbrush app for kids. Runs a countdown timer for 2 minutes. Kids brush their teeth for 2 minutes. Little tooth dancing around, maybe shouting encouraging words at them, like, keep going, you're doing great, whatever. And then they accumulate points as they brush their teeth. And they can bring that back to the dentist to exchange the points for movie tickets or whatever it may be. Well, that keeps the loop, right, coming back. Instead of mom going off, well, now little Johnny is going, Mom, I've got 400 points and I can get 2 movie tickets. We're not going anywhere else. And that kid's driving that deal for the dentist. And so there's a lot of different things you can do like that too.
Yeah, and maybe a deduction for each cavity.
Could be. Yeah.
I mean,
more points.
That's pretty cool.
Maybe instead of lowering the price, maybe you just give them more points to create that, that value proposition or whatever. I'm a big, I don't like to discount at all. Because I believe V Squared created my company. V Squared stands for value for value. I believe that the prices we offer are very, very fair and that you're getting a great value when you hire us anyway. There's no reason for me to discount. And when people see our work, they generally agree. They go, yeah, you do great work. You gave me a great price. I'm not going to ask for a discount. And if they want a discount, I would generally add something else of value as opposed to lowering my price.
So a service-based company, let's say a heating company, a plumbing company, it's a reoccurring revenue.
Mm-hmm.
They sell contracts. What would be that type of value item? I mean, cost, the specific item, and then when and how do you deliver it?
Well, it's going to vary across businesses, but I would lean towards doing things that are unexpected, that are not only valuable, but they're also unexpected. And so I had a guy not too long ago, he was our HVAC place. They called me and said, hey, you've been in your home for a year. We want to come and check your ducts out. And I was like, well, how much is that going to run me? He's like, it's not going to cost you anything. This is something we do. As a benefit, just for being a customer, we appreciate you. You've been in your home for a year. We need to come and check it out. And so they came and they checked it out, and it didn't cost me anything. And it was like an unexpected, very pleasant surprise, and I like that. And I'm going to be very hesitant to go anywhere else, even if they offer me a lower price, because they did something for me, and it's a quid pro quo. It's that law of reciprocity that we all know, that Robert Cialdini made famous in his book. When somebody gives you something of value, you feel like almost obligated to give them something in return. And so it doesn't have to be anything huge or big or fancy or expensive. I mean, it's
unexpected.
Unexpected is a good way to do it, yeah.
So in thinking of an item that can relate to your customers, sometimes it can be in service, sometimes it could be maybe in information.
Yeah. Well, and even so I'll go back, and I'm kind of going back to dentists here often, but there was another thing that when you said that, it kind of spurred a thought. When my son was probably 6 or 7, he had some cavities filled, and he was in a lot of pain. And that night, the dentist actually called our home and asked to speak with Bo. And he's like, "Hey, can I talk to him?" He's like, "How you doing, buddy? You're probably going to be achy for a little while." But I mean, it just made a big impression. My son was like, "Wow, he's 7. A dentist called him at home." We were really impressed that the dentist called him, and we'll never go anywhere else. There's that level of care. It was unexpected, but it was just genuine. It was sincere. It was very, very kind.
And you probably need to make sure you're consistent, because you can't do it once and then not deliver it the second time.
Yeah, because then your neighbor goes, well, he didn't call us. My teeth are bleeding, he didn't call me. So you got to be careful with that, but yeah.
So how do we focus on retention? I mean, it's one thing to draw a customer in. There's so many different medias, and when we get that customer to us, we deliver our first experience or our first service visit. How do we retain that client?
The first way is to don't screw it up the first time. I mean, this reminds me of that old stand-up bit by Steve Martin. He goes, how do you become a millionaire? Well, first, you get $1 million. That's the first thing. So, how do we keep a customer? Well, first you got to get one, and you got to make sure you treat them right the first time around. I am amazed at how many times I go into a brand new place, and they act like I'm nothing, and it's just this horrible experience. And I'm like, you have no idea the money, time, resources it took for you to get me to walk through this door. And if you had any idea how difficult that really is, you would be on your knees kissing my feet, because it's really that
And then
important.
to treat me like dirt.
And then to treat me like dirt. I mean, it's nuts. And so you got to start there. You got to roll out the red carpet for these new clients that come in. And then you got to keep that going. You can't set a really high expectation and then back off. Well, it's his old hat. They've been in before. It drives me bonkers when I see an ad for a new customers only discount. That drives me nuts. I'm like, why aren't you giving me a discount? I've been here for 5 years. If anybody should get a discount, it should be me, not the new guy that you don't even know if he's going to stick around. I've been so loyal. That drives me crazy. How about an old customer discount? Let's do that. Let's do an old customer discount.
I know what you're saying, because you always wonder, it's like DirecTV or one of those guys or your cell phone. If I switch, I get a certain deal, but then all of a sudden there's a better deal.
Yeah. So you call them and you go, hey, I want to cancel. And while I'm on the phone, I want you to re-sign me, but on the new deal that I just canceled off of. Yeah. It's
so how do you maintain a profitable business when you're doing things like that?
You can't. Because, it's the long-term damage that you're doing to your brand is horrific, and you don't even realize it because it's like cancer. It just eats away at you over time, and you don't even really know it. But when you pull stunts like that, you erode that customer loyalty and you erode that relationship little by little. You're chipping away at it, and you really don't think it's that big of a deal, but it is over time. It adds up, and that's why companies are leaving vendors in droves because of this. They may not be able to pinpoint it. A customer may not go, I left them because they pulled a bait and switch on me. They left them because they did that and they didn't register, but they knew something was off and they didn't feel like they got treated fairly.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
I think that's a big deal. Is if you don't feel like you were cared for, you're going to leave that. And I think when you look at a restaurant, let's say you go in and buy a cheap burger. The food wasn't very good, but the service was amazing. But then you go to a great place to eat with crappy service.
Yeah, you don't go back.
You don't go back.
Yeah, and
crappy food wins.
It does. It does. Well, that's why McDonald's sits around. It's sticking around. I mean, look, in all seriousness, McDonald's and those places are around because it's a very consistent experience. You know what you're going to get. You're going to get a Big Mac the same exact way in Boise, Idaho, as you are in Bismarck, Dakota. I don't know. North Dakota. South. I'm sorry. I don't know. North Dakota. Whatever. You're going to get the same experience. And so you accept that the food's not going to be as great because you're paying for the experience. It's consistency. Yeah. You're not, you got screaming kids in the back seat and you're trying to figure out a way, and little Johnny is picky and little Susie is not going to eat what he's going to eat, and they have to have something different. McDonald's is consistent, and at least you know that. You're killing yourself, but you know it.
Yeah.
And I accept it.
I think, too, us as business owners, if our employees are doing a great job, we got to figure out how do we keep them. I mean, how do we retain the good employees? But I think everybody's guilty at some point where they keep an employee too long. Someone that, oh, geez, I don't want to have to go out and hire somebody else, or I'm too busy. Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, this employee's destroying your customer base. They're destroying the experience and that customer you have, they may have used you for years, but now they're done.
Yeah, and it eats. I mean, this happened to us a few years ago. We had an employee. She was a sales rep, responsible for about 50% of our new sales revenue, which was really high. It was like incredibly high. There were 5 reps, and she was responsible for half of it. Well, she was so negative and such a blight on the company that, I mean, you could feel the tension in the air when you walked into the sales office or whatever, and everybody was just uncomfortable all the time. And I said, we got to let her go. And I remember one of my key managers said, if we do, there goes 50% of our new revenue. And I said, I don't care. We got to do this.
It's not worth the money.
It's not. And so we let her go. But you know what happened? The other 4 jumped. Yep. They doubled what they were selling, and it more than made up from what she lacked. And all it took was that one fell swoop of the
Don't settle for it. Mm-mm. I think as a business, if you're looking for long-term customer relations and getting them to continue using you, look at your service, look at the experience, do the little things. I mean, Toby just talked about experiences of creating something new like the dentist did with the app. But look at what you and your people are doing, the little things that make that big difference where you're creating such a loyalty, they don't dare use anybody else. Brandon Wright, Wright Stuff Radio Show, Toby Brockner, CMO Marketing, and V Squared Creative. Thanks for joining us.